Good evening, and welcome to this week's Black Mental Health is Black Health. I'm your host, Bronwyn Lucas, Ms. B, the Black Couch Therapist. And we have an exciting guest here today. And we'll be talking about a topic that's not necessarily something you want to hear about, but it's something real: domestic violence. So today we have a survivor's story. But you know what we do? We have to do some deep breathing first. If it's your first time here, we take 3 deep breaths just to ah, woosah and get rid of the cares of the day. So I'll count slowly to 4. And as I count to 4, you'll breathe in and I'll say out and you'll breathe out. So let's do it. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4. In, 2, 3, 4. Out, 2, 3, 4. One more. In, 2, 3, 4. Out, 2, 3, 4. Just that moment of woosah. And, after the election yesterday, a lot of people still are trying to woosah. That was a lot. And it's only been a day, so we're still dealing with all of that. So that moment of woosah. Well, today we have with us Dorothy Dickerson, and you know how I do it. Dorothy, introduce yourself and tell us something cool about yourself.
Well, my name is Dorothy Dickerson. I am an author, I'm a mother, and I am I have a bachelor degree, I have a master degree, bachelor in business, a major in business studies. Well, the bachelor's is in business studies, but I major in business administration and management, and then I have a master in management.
Oh, okay. Are you a numbers person?
Oh no.
Oh, okay.
So, although I took several math classes to get that bachelor degree, I took like I think 7 or 8 classes,
Yikes.
microeconomics, macroeconomics, and it was not fun. I didn't like all
Yeah,
those
numbers were
classes.
not my thing
Mm-mm.
at all.
Finance classes. I was so glad to be over with that.
I can
Those
imagine.
math classes.
Well, let's jump into the topic. Today I want to first give us a little stats on domestic violence. And last month was Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and we were unable to do this particular show in the month of October, but it's something that attention needs to be drawn to 12 months a year. So it doesn't matter that it's not DV Awareness Month. We need to talk about it. Dorothy and I had the privilege of sitting on a panel together during October as she told her story, and I was there to talk about it from the mental health aspect and how domestic violence impacts the family and the community. And I asked her to come on and share her story because we can hear something, but when it's real, when you hear a real person talk about what really
Mm-hmm.
happens, it's so different. So, Dorothy, tell us, how has domestic violence affected your life?
Well, it has affected my life in more ways than one. I mean, emotionally, spiritually, financially, mentally, in all aspects of my life, it has affected me. I was withdrawn, money was withheld from me financially, mentally, it messed with my emotions. And physically, it affected me because there was bruises and scars all on my body. And spiritually, I mean, my faith in my Savior that I believe in had had wavered because I was like, where is my God in this time of my need?
Mm.
So it was. It affected me in more ways than one.
And you really substantiate what I say is that mind, body, spirit are so tied together. You impact
Hmm.
one, you impact the other too.
Hmm.
And you really
Exactly.
can. And that is what you're saying. So tell us about what was your story? What happened? What was the
Well,
abuse if
I
you don't mind, what was the abuse you incurred?
there was a lot of incidents. One being that my finger got broken. Um, this person got so upset in a heated up argument. I didn't think it was that serious. To me, it didn't seem like it was that serious. But in the blink of an eye, I was standing in the doorway and he slammed the door. I guess in his mind was shutting me up because he didn't want to hear anything else I had to say. Because I don't use my fist to fight. I use words. I mean, I don't use profanity, but I use words. I know how to talk for myself. That was my defense mechanism is using my words. So um, he slammed the door, and I didn't know my finger was broken until 2 days later. All I know was it was swollen, and I thought it was sprung real bad. I didn't
Mhm.
think they was broken until I actually went to the doctor and they did X-rays and everything. My finger was broken, and so um, he immediately apologized, said that he didn't mean it, and you know, but the fact remained, what are you doing?
Right. Was this a husband or boyfriend or
For
you
her.
okay.
I
Was were there other times when he was abusive?
other time, I mean, mentally, that
Mm,
affected me mentally because I was like, what is he, over an argument that I didn't feel like it was that serious that he had to, take
right.
those measures
Mhm.
to break, slam my finger in this door. I was standing in the doorway with my hands up on the frame of the door talking.
Mhm.
We conversing back and forward, going back and forward. Little did I know, he just all of a sudden just slammed the door on my finger and broke it. It broke. And so, and this is a guy that I married twice, but I, I divorced him. The first time it was it wasn't really neutral, but he consented to it and everything. And then
So
in
he asked for the divorce the first time or you?
it was more so, I guess, me.
Mhm.
Because I was tired of going through the things that I was going through. Because I was the one that was being, at that time, it wasn't physical. It was just more so mentally and emotionally. Because
Okay.
I was being, uh, I guess, stalked by your own husband. When you go to the store and I got this sixth sense about myself. I can tell when someone is staring at me. And
Mhm.
I would start turn around, look that person straight in the face, in the eyes, and they like, "How did you know I was staring at you?" I
Mhm.
got this
Mhm.
kind of feeling when I can tell when someone's staring at me, or when someone had entered a room when I'm sleeping. I will wake up and feel a presence. I can feel a energy. But there have been times, a couple of times, in fact, that I have gone to the store, retail stores, and felt someone staring at me. Look back behind me, lo and behold, he would be following me to see if I was going to the places that I said I was going to. And there was time where I would call him and put the people's on the phone that I was at the places
Mhm.
to let him know, assure him that I was there where I said I was going to be. It was no trust. There was no security there. I mean, it was
And this
it,
was the first marriage.
that was in the first marriage, and then I
How
thought
long were you
things.
married the first time?
Altogether, we was married 23 years.
Between the two marriages?
Between the two marriages with the same person.
Hmm. So you
Yeah,
marry him.
I married
He's
him, then we divorced for 2 years, and then it was like we were still together because he was still calling, and we
hmm
wasn't having no dealings, but we was relations. But he was still calling and checking up on me, so he say, checking up on me and
was
stuff.
he still stalking you?
No, I don't think so. At
Hmm.
least I didn't see him anywhere looking around. But however, I let him talk me into marrying him again, and then that's when it became more physical at that time.
How long after you went back did it become physical?
Maybe I want to say a year, maybe.
Mm.
And um, I'm the kind of person, I'm real hard on myself, and I blame myself for a lot of other people's behavior. I
Mm-hmm.
blame myself for other people's reaction towards me. And I'm like, well, perhaps you could have shut up when he told you to shut up. Perhaps you would have, not been slapped or not been hit, whatever. And I take inventory of myself all the time, and I always say, well, you can do this better. You can do that better. If you stop nagging, you stop, you shut up when they say, shut up. Like both of my husbands were older than me. And so they was like more of a father figure.
How much older?
Well, one was like, I guess, 12 years old, and the other one was 11 years older.
Hmm.
Well, not a father
So you
figure, but
went
they were.
back, and in a year, it now becomes physical. How long did you stay that time? And or what made you finally say, you know what, I'm not doing this anymore?
Well, that particular husband kept going in and out. He kept leaving me. He kept leaving. He would leave and thinking the grass would be greener wherever he was going. Then he'll come back. When he get down on his luck, he'll come back to me, and and then I mean it's like, well, this there's an extra income coming in, so I accepted him back in, and I'm like, but I don't know if he really gonna do what he say he gonna do. All of
Right.
these promises he making that he's gonna do. It would be
How
good
many
for a little
times did he
while.
go and come?
Oh, it was several times, at least uh, maybe about 10 times. I don't know. Out of the 23 years,
Your camera's freezing. Okay, you're back. Say
so
that again. I asked how many times, and then
oh,
you
I
come
said
back. And
maybe around about 10 times. I lost count. I didn't
wow.
keep
Hmm.
count of it. It was just so many times, and I mean there was time when I would come home from work. His clothes is gone, TV gone, he's gone. There was time I would come home from church, his clothes gone, his TV gone, everything gone. Everything that belonged to him was gone.
And when that happened, was there a sense of relief for those moments? You come home, here's a person who's physically abusive to you, he's gone. Was there any relief in that?
Well, that particular husband, he although he was physical, but he wasn't as physical as the first husband. So I there was a sense of release that I didn't have to. We didn't. I won't have to be arguing with him. I won't have to be trying to explain myself to him. I won't have to be accused of uh, slipping around, messing around with someone, and so there was a sense of relief. I mean, who don't want peace
Right.
and a peace of mind most of all?
Definitely. And in your own home. So you were married three times. One and three were the same person, or one and two.
Hmm.
One and three were the same person.
Well, the I got married the first time for 4.5 years. Then
Mhm.
I went, I don't know how many years later. before I remarried. Well, I married again to another guy, a different
Hmm.
guy, and then we went 2 years divorced, and then we remarried.
Okay, two. The second and third marriage was to the same person.
Hmm. Yes.
So first marriage, that's one where he went in and out.
The first one, I was the one who kept leaving.
You kept
I
leaving, but
kept
you
leaving,
went
but
back.
I kept coming back.
You
I
kept
kept
coming
going
back.
back.
Hmm. What do you think at the time was the benefit to going back? How did it help you?
Well, because of the broken promises, the promises that was being told to me, and things are gonna be better. I'm gonna get counseling, and we're gonna get marriage counseling, and we're gonna talk to the pastor, and the pastor, which was his friend, one of his best friends, that wouldn't check him when he got off track.
Hmm. Hmm.
But that's a different story. But it was broken promises that kept me going back. And
And
then
you
he
felt
was
like the
a stalker
promises were
too
going to
because
be
he would show up at my job when I come out of the building from work. He's there waiting on me to try to convince me to come back to him.
kept. Mm.
And then they were saying he would have his sisters to call me, he have his brothers to talk to me, and he would talk to my sisters to try to get them to persuade me to come back. And he kept blowing my phone up, just all kind of craziness until I'll come back. And then when I come back, he'll do good for maybe 3 or 4 months, and then he right back doing the same old shenanigans. And it seemed like each time it gotten worse instead of better.
So what was the final straw for you?
When I found out that I was pregnant, and I said that my baby was not going to grow up in that kind of environment.
Mm. And how did he take it? You're pregnant with his child and you're leaving. What was
Well,
his
he didn't know that I was leaving at the time. He didn't know I was pregnant. He didn't know I was leaving. He didn't. I left after he had left to go to work.
mm.
I had already planned on leaving, and I planned it really well. I had grabbed boxes and here and there, and were hiding them behind the house. And I had made my escape that I was going to leave and I was never coming back.
And that's an important message for women who want to get out of such a relationship, that it's not always an overnight thing. You do have to plan. You do have
Hmm.
to.
Exactly.
Some women will go and they'll get a whole nother lease and have everything worked out. And like you say, when he's gone from the house, pack up and leave. Some women will take things little by little, like their personal belongings, because the husband is not as concerned with their personal belongings. Or like you said, you had boxes and you had things just stored, and you take it and you go. And it's about safety, the safety of the woman. You
Hmm.
can't always say, I'm leaving you, especially when it's physical.
Exactly. Because I knew if I had to confront it, told him up front, I'm leaving you, it was going to be a physical altercation going on, or, you know, he was going to be cursing me out or carrying on. And I didn't want to deal with that. I wanted to leave in peace. So I waited until he left. I left him a letter and left it on the table. Didn't tell him where I was going
Hmm.
because at that time I had 4 other sisters, so he didn't know where I was going. But knowing him, he knew I was going to one of them house. So I just left
How
and
did
took
he respond?
everything that I was going to take with me because I wasn't coming back.
How did he respond when you? What did he do? How did he reach out when you finally left and you were like, I'm not coming back?
Called, kept calling and calling and calling, and came to the window. One time he came to my I went over to my mom's house to live with her. And one time he came to the window, he was beating on the window sill, and I mean beating on the window pane, and he was disturbing the neighbors because my mom was living in an apartment at the time, and he was disturbing the neighbors. He was disturbing my mom. He was just being unruly out there.
Mm-hmm. And what did you do that time?
I told him to go away and leave me alone. And then the very next day, he showed up at my job
Mm.
with
And
his brother to try to convince me to come back.
did he contest the divorce when you finally did?
I went to court 3 times to divorce that man.
What happened? Why
Well,
three
the
times?
first time I went, he he said his lawyer wasn't prepared, wasn't ready. His lawyer was pregnant at the time, and he said his lawyer wasn't feeling well or something was going on with his lawyer. Okay, the second time I went, his lawyer didn't show up again, and so the judge told him that, hey, we're not going to continue to keep rescheduling, canceling these days, and rescheduling. Your lawyer gonna have to show up the third time that we scheduled the court hearing, or we just gonna grant her everything she asked for. And so the third time, him or his lawyer didn't show up. Neither
Mm.
one showed up. So I was granted everything. Everything that I asked for, my lawyer was able to get it. Uh, the judge to grant it.
And this was the first husband.
That was the first husband.
What about the second? How did he take it when you did finally leave? Well, you left twice. So the first time you left, he begged and pleaded and came back, or what happened that you believed him and you took him back the second time?
Well, he did a lot of broken promises too. He would say that, he was going to get counseling, he was going to do better, he's going to get a job. Mostly our arguments was about him not wanting to work.
Mm.
He would get jobs, but sometimes he would go the same day and quit the same day.
Oh, wow.
That's not what they told me that job was about, and blah blah blah. It was always an excuse why he couldn't work. And I'm like, I can do bad all by myself. I don't need,
Mhm.
I don't need a man to help me do bad. I can
Right.
do bad all by myself. If I'm gonna pay all the bills, and I'm gonna pay the mortgage, pay all the bills, and I'm paying for my own car, I got my own money. What I need you for? So that was the biggest issue we were having. Him, well, at first it was the biggest issue was not him providing and doing
Hmm.
his portions, sharing his money. It was him just being insecure and jealous and didn't want me to breathe. I felt like he was suffocating me. And then when we divorced and we got back together, then it became an issue with the money. I mean, he just got to the point where he just did not want to work. And I'm like, you can't live here and not work.
Right.
It
Wasn't
don't
going
work
to
that way.
happen.
I
And
wasn't raised that way.
when
I
you
don't take
talk,
care of a grown man.
right, you weren't going to support that. And when we think about domestic violence, people generally think about the physical violence, but there are four areas, and that's the physical violence, which
Mm,
you experience. There is also sexual violence. Some people don't understand that rape can occur within a marriage.
yes, ma'am.
And 1 in 3 women experience sexual violence. It can be, and 1 in 4 women experience physical violence. And interestingly enough, 1 in 7 men experience physical, intimate partner violence. We don't think about, well, how can a man be the victim of domestic violence? He a man. He's big.
Oh,
He's this. It can happen. I like
yeah.
to give this example. I was a high school counselor years ago, and there was this little girl. I say little because physically she was really small. She was like not quite 5 feet tall, right? Little bitty tiny something. And she was dating a football player, big, burly guy. So she would wear his ring, his class ring, he got the big male kind of class ring, and she would punch him with it. And you're like, well, her punches can't hurt, but you keep hitting that same spot over and
over
over.
and over, it hurt.
And he began to bruise because she would do that. And I'm sitting here and I'm observing this. And I pointed it out. I said, you know that you're being, I said, do you know what domestic violence is? And her response, yeah, when a guy beats up a girl, I said, but your actions, this is the same thing. And he said, yeah, because I can't hit her. Look at me, look at her. If I just tap her, I can knock her over. So he might have had a physical advantage over her, but she had an advantage over him. Her size actually played the opposite. And that's just one example that we don't even think of how, because I like to give an example because people just can't fathom that a man could be a victim of domestic violence. But that is a type of physical violence against a male. It can happen. And then you also experienced psychological aggression, and over 61 million women in this country experience that, and that is that mental abuse.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so many kinds, but it happens all, and you experience so much of it. But it's amazing. You're here now. You're on the other side. You're able to say, been there, done that, will not do it again. Yeah.
Amen.
And you also talked about economic effects, how it impacted you. Another thing that we see a lot of time is that the man, in your case, he wouldn't work and he wanted you to do everything. But sometimes you'll see where the man won't allow the woman to work, so that he has that control over the money and she has none. And that's a way of controlling. So
Mm-hmm.
there's so much to it.
So
There's
much,
so much to domestic violence.
so
What
much.
would you say in the last few minutes? What advice would you give to someone who is in a relationship and they're thinking about getting out, or they just don't know how to get out? What could you say to them?
First of all, I would tell them, don't do like I did. Don't be silent. Tell somebody. Let somebody know. And then go to a trusted person, someone that you can trust, someone that you know that can help you help yourself. That I did at some point. I went to my pastor, but that was my husband's best friend. And so he didn't take it serious,
Mm.
apparently, until he found me in a position where I was hog tied. I guess you would call that hog tied when your hands and your feet are tied together behind you together. And that's how he had tied me up with some neck ties. He had choked me unconscious. And then when I came to myself, I literally thought I was dying. I really did thought I was dying that night.
Did
And
he untie you, or how did you get out of that particular situation?
my pastor untied me.
How did he find you?
He had called him. I heard him calling people. I
Mhm.
just could hear him from the bedroom calling people, telling them I didn't know who he was talking to at that time until my pastor came in and he found me tied up like I was. And at that point, that's when he really took it serious that I was being abused. What I was telling him was the truth. But he had told them that well, to me, I was laying there on the bed. When I came to myself, I'm like, I can't move my arm and I can't move my legs. What is going on? What did this man have done to me? And I could hear knives and things moving around in the kitchen. And I'm like, is he getting a knife to finish me off? You know? And I'm like, what is going on? And so I wiggled myself out of the bed onto the floor. And I was trying my best to get those neckties loose so I can wiggle myself out of there, get out of there some kind of way. Well, he lied and said that I was attacking him with those knives. and he took all the knives out of the house and put them in his car to keep me from attacking him.
Did you leave after that incident?
Oh yes, I left. My throat was bruised up. My wrists were bruised. My ankle was bruised from the neckties being tied and me trying to wiggle out of them. And actually, when he was choking me, I had just called 911.
I was going to ask if you ever called anyone. Did they
I
come?
called 911 because it started with him saying, hurt you, telling my mom about how I've been beating on you and how I've been cursing you out, mistreating you. And so he confronted me about me consulting with his mom about his behavior. And she was like, "Oh, he didn't mean it. He's good boy." And she's condoning that. Later on, I found out that she was a victim of abuse
Hmm.
from his dad. So to her, it was okay. It was okay. His behavior was fine. He's in meaning. He's okay. He's a good boy. And I'm like, but that's not right. I mean, you're a sweet woman and all, but that's not right. And
Wow.
so I encourage anyone, if you want to get out, to seek help. If you don't want, you're afraid your call is going to be heard, go to the police station and report it.
Hmm.
Call a friend, call someone, and have them, to call the police. Something, do something. Step up and tell someone. Like I said, I told two people, and one of them, neither one of them believed me the time that I was telling them until my pastor actually seen me tied up. He's like, "Well, why is she tied up like this?" I couldn't remember much because I was so dumbfounded and so distraught from that, being in that predicament. And he had choked me to the point where I couldn't even talk. All I could feel, I actually felt my life slipping away from me. I could feel my eyes rolling into my head. I can feel me yelling, "Help me, somebody help me," but I couldn't hear myself say it anymore. I can feel my mouth moving, but my sound, there was no sound. And I
Mm.
actually felt seeing my whole life just flash before me as he was and literally killing me. And by the grace of God, all I can remember me thinking in my mind, "Lord, don't let me leave this world this way. I don't want to leave this world in this predicament."
And thankfully, you were able to get through that and be able to be here. I want to thank you for sharing your story because so many people go through things and they don't want to share it. There's the embarrassment, but you never know the fact that you shared it, whose life you can change. You may empower someone just by doing it. So thank you so much for doing that. I wanted to also give there is a national domestic violence hotline. I'm going to say the
Mhm.
number, and it is 800-799-7233. That's 800-799-7233. Or you can text begin to 88788. And if you forget all those numbers, you can literally type in National Domestic Violence Hotline and the numbers will come up. You can, type in those in a internet search and you can find them. There is help. Those are 24-hour lines. There is help. You don't have to manage this alone. Um, Dorothy Dickerson, thank you once again for sharing your story and possibly making a difference and saving someone's life today.
Oh, you're welcome.
I always end with a call to action, and my call to action today is if it's you who is in a relationship that's even potentially going to become a domestic violence situation, find the strength to get help and move on. If you know someone, be there for them. Don't try to force them out of it because you may put them in more danger, but be there to walk beside them and help them through this journey. I always end the show saying, vote, 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 be an educated voter. And after this week, we're all like, well, why? Continue to be involved in the politics of your area. And once again, I'm Bronwyn, Miss B, the Black Couch Therapist, here to help you become a better you. See you next week.